Hello everyone, this is Avi Nitekman. I hope this video finds you well, and I hope you are staying safe, staying positive, and are preparing for Shabbos. In preparation for Shabbos, I have tried to put together some information that will be helpful as far as the halachos and procedures for davening at home without a minyan. So I've put a few things together, and I hope that will all be useful. I will be using the regular Art Scroll Siddur for as far as page numbers are concerned, so feel free to follow along if you would like. So the first thing that's important to know when davening at home is that you have to make sure that the place that you are davening is an appropriate place for davening. And that means that there should not be anything that smells around you when you are davening. In addition, you should not daven in front of a mirror, nor in front of any kinds of pictures, as this is not appropriate for davening when davening to Hashem. In addition, it's also important to make sure that you are davening in a place that is going to be free of distraction, that you will be able to focus on your davening, which, again, at home, make sure you find a place that you will be able to do so. Okay, so getting right into the halachos of davening at home. So I guess the first thing to discuss is the timing. Today, the timing for everything will be as follows. Mincha can be said any time from about 2 o'clock this afternoon until about 7:30 tonight. Now, it's important to make sure that we understand that the family needs to function as a unit when it comes to accepting Shabbos. Therefore, we need to recognize that when the candles are lit for Shabbos, that is an acceptance of Shabbos. In addition, when one says Kabbalah Shabbos in davening, that also is an acceptance of Shabbos. So it's important to make sure that we don't have the husband and wife doing that at two different times at home, meaning to say that it's important to make sure that Mincha is said before the candles are lit, and Kabbalah Shabbos is said after the candles are lit. So whatever time that's going to be, make sure that Mincha is before the candle lighting, and Kabbalah Shabbos and Ma'ariv is after the candle lighting, because otherwise you're going to have that the woman is accepting Shabbos with her candle lighting, and then the husband davening Mincha, which means it's not Shabbos for him. We can't have that in the same home, and the same would be true the opposite. If the husband were to start Kabbalah Shabbos, that would be an acceptance of Shabbos for the home, and it would then not be possible for the woman to go light her candles because it's already Shabbos. So again, make sure that we have the proper order of Mincha first, then the candles being lit, and then after that having Kabbalah Shabbos and Ma'ariv being said. So again, the timing for this is the early Shabbos is at 6:21, so candles should be lit any time after 6:21, and the latest time for lighting candles is at 7:16. So again, Mincha should be said before whichever candle lighting time you choose, and then the candles should be lit, and then Kabbalah Shabbos and Ma'ariv should be said afterwards. Okay. Okay, so going through the davening, Mincha is like a regular Mincha is during the week, like we do every day. And that begins on page 232 with Ashrei. When we do not have a minyan, we do not say Kaddish. So after Ashrei, we go right into Shemona Esrei. After Shemona Esrei, there is no Chazin's repetition, and therefore we would go right to Aleinu, because it's Friday, there is no Tachanun, so we will skip right to Aleinu after Shemona Esrei on page 252, and with that we will conclude Mincha. After the candles are lit, we can daven Ma'ariv at any time after that, and that begins on page 308 with Kabbalah Shabbos, as we normally do. Now, Kabbalah Shabbos is said as normal, with no changes, except that we make sure, again, we do not say Kaddish, and we do not say Baruch Hu either. Then we go into Ma'ariv. When it comes to Ma'ariv, we will say Shema in its regular place, but because we do not have a minyan, we will not have a chazan repeating the last three words of Shema Hashem Elokechem Emes, and we will not have 248 words in Shema. We always try to have 248 words corresponding to the 248 spiritual limbs of a person, and therefore we will say the three introductory words before Shema of Kel Melech Ne'eman that you will see printed in the Siddur. This way we get to our magic number of 248. After Shema, we continue on as normal, and we go to through Shmona Esrei. Again, no Kaddish. After Shmona Esrei is over, we say Vayechulu on page 346. Now, Vayechulu is a big debate as to whether or not it can be said alone, or do you need to have two people. The rationale for needing to have two people is because it is considered a testimony, that we are saying testimony that Hashem created the world in 6 days and rested from that on the 7th by accepting Shabbos. So therefore, there are those who say, the Ramah, and others who say that the Vayechulu can only be said with two people. However, the Chazon Ish and others disagree, and they say that it is not a testimony and therefore does not need to be said with two people. So practically speaking, what should we do if we are davening alone? The answer the poskim recommend is to say Vayechulu, but have in mind that that one should say Vayechulu together with someone else if that's possible. If there isn't someone else available, then Vayechulu should be said while having in mind that the reading of these verses is no different than any time I'm simply learning verses in the Torah, and therefore, according to everybody, it would be acceptable. But again, Vayechulu can be said even if one is alone, but one should have in mind that if I am not to be saying it alone, then I am simply reading verses in the Torah. Now, after Vayechulu, we skip the rest of the page. So on page 346, after Vayechulu, we do not say the Bracha Me'ein Sheva, the seven-faceted blessing, which are the last two paragraphs on the page. We do not say that, and we skip straight to Aleinu. And that ends the Friday night service, at which point we would say Kiddush and have your Friday night meal. Okay, now for the morning, for Shachris, we say like we always do, start with Brachos and Karbanos in the morning, followed by the regular Shachris. Again, there are no Kaddishes that are going to be said, so the Shabbos Shachris begins as it does every week on page 368, and we continue on saying all of the regular Psuki de Zimra and the Brachos for Shema, again without Baruch Hu, and Shema itself, again remembering to say Kel Melech Ne'eman first, and then we go into as regular, we continue on, going through Shmona Esrei. Now, after Shmona Esrei, we would normally take out the Sefer Torah and read it. However, seeing as that we don't have a minyan, that will not be the case. But the poskim do say that it is important to read the Parsha anyway. So take out a Chumash. If you don't have one, maybe print it out before Shabbos so you make sure you have it in front of you, and read through this week's Parsha. This week's Parsha is actually a double Parsha. Vayakel and Pekudei begins on page 516 and continues all the way through the end of Vayakel and the end of Pekudei, which is on page 540. There is no need to read the Haftarah, but if you would like to, you certainly can, obviously without saying any brachos before or after. And this week is Parshas HaChodesh, so we have a unique Haftarah, which is found on page 1218. And again, if you'd like to read that, you certainly can, but it is not necessary. So after reading the Parsha and a Chumash, we then go on to Yekum Purkan on page 448. Now, Yekum Purkan is also a discussion about whether or not it should be said without a minyan. Rabbi Slides has recommended that we follow the opinion that says that the first paragraph of Yekum Purkan should be said, which is on page 448. However, the rest of that prayer should not be said, which is the second half of page 450, with the second Yekum Purkan as well as the Mishaberach that follows. So all of that, those second two paragraphs would be omitted. Next, we have this week is Shabbos Mevarchim, and we say the prayer for the new month. And Rabbi Slides has recommended that for this, we should say it at home. However, we do not say all of it. So on page 452, we have the prayer for the new month. We will not say the first two paragraphs of Yehi Ratzon as well as Misha Asanisim. Those are not said. And we don't say the last paragraph on the page of Yechad Shehu. None of those are said. The only part that's said is the part that we mention Rosh Chodesh itself. So the Molad for Rosh Chodesh, and if you'd like to write this down to have it, it's certainly worthwhile. The Molad will be Tuesday morning at 10, 14, and 11 sections. And Rosh Chodesh will be Wednesday night and Thursday. So therefore, what we will say for the Rosh Chodesh benching will just be the following line. Rosh Chodesh Nisan, Yiyeh B'yom HaChamishi, Haba Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael L'Tova. That is all we say, that Rosh Chodesh Nisan will be on Thursday of this week. After that, we go right to Ashrei on page 456, and then we skip after Ashrei right to the Musaf Shmona Esrei on page 462. If you'd like to give a sermon in middle there, you are more than welcome to, but just make sure no one else has to listen. You can let them sleep during that time, as is common custom. And then we have Musaf on page 462. We say Musaf like we normally do. Again, no repetition afterwards. So after we finish the Musaf Shmona Esrei, we'll go right to Kaveh El Hashem and In Kelokeinu on page 476. If you'd like to sing In Kelokeinu, you are welcome to. But again, let's not subject anyone else to that if you can avoid it. And then we will skip to Aleinu on page 480, and we will not say Anim Zemiros on page 484, but we will go to the Shir Shel Yom, Hayom Yom Shabbos Kodesh on page 488, and that will conclude our Shabbos morning service. At that point, make sure that you say Kiddush before eating and having your Shabbos day meal. And then the rest of the day, what we have Mincha. Mincha should be said anytime after 2:02 in the afternoon, and should be done no later than 7:37. After Mincha, and again, Mincha is just Ashrei and Uvalat Zion, as we would, because if we had a Minyan, but because there is no Minyan, we will not have the Torah reading, but we say Ashrei on page 502, Uvalat Zion on page 504 and 506, and then we will go straight to Shmona Esrei on page 514, say the regular Shmona Esrei as we would, and then Aleinu on 526. After Mincha, have Shalosh Shudas. Again, it's up to you if you want to do the singing for Shalosh Shudas. Trying to imitate the Shalosh Shudas crew might prove difficult, so you might not want to do that. But either way, have Shalosh Shudas, and then Ma'ariv will be no earlier than 8:07, and Shabbos ends at no earlier than 8:22. Make sure that you say Havdalah after 8:22, and that will conclude all of the things that you need to know that I could think of for this Shabbos. I hope everyone is feeling well, doing well, staying safe, staying positive. Enjoy your Shabbos, and thank you for listening.